So the number one thing that you need in your relationship with either your current partner or your avoidant ex-partner who may have, discarded you and come back, and you're trying to reconnect with them and you started something new, the number one thing that's going to set the tone and give you the best shot at having something sustainable is boundaries, right? And so what do I mean by boundaries? What I mean is when you're dating this person or when you were dating this person, they would consistently not show up. When I was dating my avoidant ex, I would notice that I would text her and she wouldn't respond directly to some of the questions that I asked. Like I would ask her, hey, call me later, or are you free later? And she would just ignore those. It was extremely frustrating because those were me trying to tell her, hey, I'm trying to have a bid for connection with you. I want to connect with you on a deeper level. I want to know what's going on with you, on a daily basis or a weekly basis. I want to connect. I want to stay in touch. And when I would not get a response, it was very frustrating. And so not having the skills that I have now, I would say, why don't you ever do this? Why do you always ignore me? Why, and I was shaming her, or at least from her perspective, it was shame. And so the better way, for future reference, if you're in this situation, or you think you might be in this situation in the future, the better way to approach that would be something to the effect of, hey, I noticed, right? So you can say something to address the issue. Hey, I noticed when I message you, sometimes you don't respond. It would really help me if you could be a little bit more proactive with responding to those messages, because I'm trying to connect with you, right? So you state what you need. You don't accuse them or shame them. You just say, hey, here's what works for me. Here's what my needs are. And I'm trying to get this need met. And is this something you're able to do? Or is this something you're willing to work on, right? Is this something that you can, let me know about? Can you let me know if that works for you? Maybe if you could try responding more often, that would really help me out. Or, you can be very clear about what that looks like. I've noticed that we're not going on dates like we used to. We're not connecting weekly like I really would like in order to feel connected. And so, what that looks like for me is maybe once or twice more a week, we go on a date. Or, maybe once a week, we make definite plans to meet up, so that I feel more connected to you. So I feel like this relationship is moving forward. Is that something you're willing and able to do? And if they don't respond, or they respond and they ignore the message, or they gaslight you, then that just tells you that, hey, you know what, this person may not really be available to me. This person maybe not really be able to be in a space where they can actually hear what I'm saying, even though I'm coming to them the right way. And I think what a lot of people get stuck on is there's this magic way, there's this magic formula, and you just need to say the things in the right way so that they will have the correct response, the right and healthy response. And so a lot of times, it is you, and you're not intentionally shaming them, or you're not intentionally trying to push them, but that's how they experience it. Now, if you try to take all that stuff out where they're going to feel ashamed, they're going to feel pressured, they're going to feel like you don't hear them, or you don't understand where they're coming from. If you try to account for all of those things and you're coming to them the correct way, and they still are not hearing you, you give them a timeline, and then they're still not able to show up in a way that's going to be healthy. I don't want to use terms like right and wrong, but I want to use terms like healthy and unhealthy, right? Because the thing is this is so important. The reason that you're setting boundaries is because your needs are not getting met in the relationship, right? So you have to be willing to set what, works for you. Sorry about the noise. I don't know what that is. You have to be willing to set a boundary and say, you know what, this is the absolute minimum that I'm willing to accept without getting my needs unmet in the relationship. And otherwise, what is the point of having the relationship if I'm having to capitulate all of my needs in order to please this other person? Like, what's the point of that, right? And so the reason why it's so important for you to set a boundary is simply because if you don't, number one, the avoidant is going to walk all over you. Number two is they're eventually going to leave anyway if they're unhealthy, right? And now you've capitulated to all their needs at the expense of your own, and you've gotten discarded. So there is no upside in that situation. And then, the other thing is at the end of the day, you are self-abandoning and you're not getting your needs met. And the avoidant, if they're not ready, they're not ready. So you are actively participating in this situation that speaks to their attachment style, right? So when you chase after them and capitulate to their needs and you kind of throw your needs out the window and then they still discard you, that means they are not available. They are not healthy enough to sustain a healthy and long-lasting relationship. There is no amount of tools that you can learn and implement in order to keep this person. They are going to leave no matter what. And so the only thing you can do is set the boundary, and then you have to decide, and there's work to be done around this in order to get to this point, but you have to decide that you are not willing to accept any less than X, Y, and Z. And if this person does not, show up at least at the minimum level, right? And these have to be reasonable things, right? You can't be like, listen, I need you to text me every half hour, and at the bottom of every hour, I'm gonna, text you, right? That's just silly, right? They have to be realistic, right? But if they're realistic and you've set the boundary and they still, fail to show up, and you've given them a requisite amount of time, and how much time, it depends on, what the relationship looked like. Were you in a 13 marriage, or were you in a 6-month relationship where you were dating? Those two things are different. And so maybe you might give them more time because, you've got kids together, you got more at stake, they have more history with you versus a situationship that lasted for 2 or 3 months, or maybe 6 months at the most, right? Versus a 2-year relationship like I had. So, maybe you give them 8 weeks to really move the needle, and not just a little bit, but like 25, 35%, right? Where they're actually showing up. You're seeing that they're doing the work. They may not, get it all right, but they are consistently showing up in a way that tells you that, hey, this person is trying. They may not always get it right. They may miss a text here and there, but I can see that they're actually trying. So I hope that helps. If you are struggling with this, go ahead and book a one-on-one call with me. Link is in the description, and I will see you guys on the next video.